Hello and welcome back once again to all of you wonderful people to the newest edition of the weekly series found right here on the information superhighway to the 117th edition of Weird My Newsroom, where this week we're probably a lot more shorter week where we focus on new releases, a few trailers, and a bit of hodgepodge news stories to come from this week. So let's waste time on the usual introductions. Let's get into talking about all things media that we do have for this week.
So happy together.
So the first release of this week is taking the focus on, in a day and age, not everyone is as normal as they seem, but they can blend in easily to the normal society. In the case of this suburban man, he may look like nothing out of the ordinary, but he has a lot of deep secrets to it, and even when all he wants to do is go on a nice break away from all that hassle, danger always finds a way to cross paths with him. As after 4 years since the original sleeper hit released to the masses, we have finally received the release of the follow-up to the action film of Nobody. Now, the new film will see workaholic assassin Hutch Mansell, played by Bob Odenkirk, taking his family on a much needed vacation to the small tourist town of Plummerville. However, he will soon find himself in the crosshairs of a corrupt theme park operator, a deep underground for smugglers cache, corrupt cops, and a bloodthirsty crime boss, and will need to hone his skills to take them down and enjoy his vacation after all of it's done. Reception to this follow-up, similar to the original film, has also got some well-received reception with praise to the performances, cinematography, and action scenes, though some of the story elements can be a little mixed and some issues stemming to the main villain being disliked that much, but seems like it's another appealing entry in a now franchise, and if you want to check it out for yourself, then you can catch his new film out now in cinemas. As for the second film for this week, we all know the case of many forms of romance, that when you love someone, there's always that sense of things that many times in a partnership that all you want to be is be close to each other all the time. I know that case. But in the case of this film itself, it may be taking that concept just a little bit too seriously, and the result may be a little too gross in some form, as we have the new film that's a bit of a romantic horror with the new title of Together. Then the film will follow Tim and Millie, played by real-life married couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who years in their relationship find themselves at a crossroads when they decide to move to the countryside, in this case to abandon all that is familiar to them in their lives except for each other, to try and bring a new sense of spark back to their lives. Soon, with tensions already flaring, a nightmarish encounter with mysterious unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. Reception on this new horror has garnered some very well received reception, with praise to the concept, the performances, and the creepy body horror elements, though some critiques I've seen stem to some of the visual effects of the body horror form of some CGI issues in that aspect, but still seems to be showing another strong entry in this year's horror franchises. But if you want to check it out for yourself, then you can also come together for a romantic horror film out now in cinemas. Now for a film that will be a case of questioning what is going on, a visual style that is somewhat not overly used, and a concept that has been over 15 years in concept development to the point where it may feel like everything has been put into this film, balls and all. As renowned animator creator Jen Tarkovsky has returned with a film that is possibly his passion project of his, with an all-new R-rated film of Fixed. The film will follow Bull, voiced by Adam Devine, an average all-around good dog who discovers he's going to be neutered in the morning. As the gravity of his life-altering events sets in, Bull realizes he needs one last adventure with his pack of best friends as these are the last 24 hours with his balls. What could go wrong? Now, reception on this film was initially praised as the original release came about. The film has seen a bit more of a mixed reception, with praise to the 2D visuals and performance cast, though mostly be against the aspect of the overlines of sex, and I'm guessing a lot of the animated buttholes and balls being present, but it seems to be a bit of a film that is seen as you'll love it or hate it kind of type of film. And if you're curious to check it out, it's able to watch now on Netflix. Then the last of the films we have for this week is in the focus of more in the area of a more romantic approach, with some focus of a trio of leads that will appeal and see a focus of if you are seen as one of the best when it comes to finding other people's true loves, how it will come to deciding who she will end up with. As we have the newest film from Academy Award nominated director of Celine Song with her new film of Materialists. The film is set in New York and will follow Lucy Mason, played by Dakota Johnson, a former actress turned professional matchmaker and one of the best in the massive luxury dating culture, where after being the best for matching others with their perfect match, will soon find herself in the midst of her own love triangle, with deciding between what could be the perfect match, played by Pedro Pascal, and her not so perfect ex-boyfriend, played by Chris Evans, who she may still have some wholesome feelings for. Now, reception on the new film has garnered some well-received reception, with praise for its performances and charm, though the elements of the story and form may not be as strong as her original film Past Lives, but it's still an enjoyable movie overall, with truly attractive leads at the helm. If you want to check it out for yourself and see if this is the match for you, you can check this film out now in cinemas. As for the one TV show for this week, we have all heard about the concept idea that in this day and age, that in space, no one can hear you scream. But it seems now in this series, that concept will be a little more close to home. And I'm sure in this case we'll be able to hear you scream, and in most cases, it will be loud. as after spreading much of its time on the big screen and on consoles, it will be time for it to take a jump to the small screen in the world of streaming. The popular series has its release of an all-new series in the form of Alien Earth. Set about a century into the future and 2 years before the original 1979 film, the series will see a large mysterious space vessel crash landing on Earth, where we will see a young woman and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers make a discovery that will now put them face to face with the planet's biggest threat. The reception of this new series seems to be very well received, with praise to the story, its setting, visuals, and being a solid entry in the long-running sci-fi series. If you want to check it out for yourself, then you can catch the first 2 episodes right now on Disney Plus, with a new episode releasing every Wednesday. And as for the second TV show for this week, is what we may know that things in our world that may have some sentience that we don't know about and could wipe us all out, and so soon take over our society and become a bit questionable, raunchier, and a lot of confusing aspects. But in this case, it is in the focus of some food that we all set to control life without the reign of us humans. In this case, it will be time for a hefty serving of seconds, if you dare so. Be fair, as we have received the release of the second season to the TV series based on the adult animated comedy of Sausage Party with Sausage Party Foodtopia. The new season will see Frank, Barry, and Sammy find themselves exiled from Foodtopia, and will now see them travel across the land and find themselves in a place known as New Foodlandia, where every food finds fulfillment. Humans are now domesticated and everything is perfect, but maybe too perfect, and soon a clash of societies is about to take place. The reception on this new season seems to be so far a lot better received compared to the first season, with more of a better structured story that's less focused on politics and more on the concept of the food-based society. Even the case of the follow-up of some of the raunchy humor can be a bit here and there in opinion, but could still appeal overall. If you want to grab a bite out of this new season, it is available now to watch on Amazon Prime. And as for the games for this week, it's time for a new way to experience some new features for a console, and that is done the way of strapping in and hitting the core to shoot a few hoops in this regards, as we have the release of the new online sports-based battle of Drag X Drive. The game will have you play as a form of 3v3 wheelchair basketball, where you will use the features of the new Switch 2 mouse controls to shoot hoops, battle it out, and be the best of the best on the court. Now, reception title has seen a bit of a mixed response, that while praise has been given to the functions of the controls and for being a strong representation of disabilities in sports, the game suffers from a bit of lacking content and for a sense of overworking controls to a possible level of pain and stress in the person playing. But I'm sure most will be added in a due time and more features to appeal to overall. If you want to try it out for yourself, then you can play the new title now on Nintendo Switch 2. With all that regards, that's all the new releases that we do have for this week.
Are you prepared to ping the pong?
Now on to the trailers, and the first for this week we have is seeing the case that will soon be time again to gather your merry crew and prepare to set sail across the high seas once again in search of a very special item that was hidden by the late great legend that everyone's hoping to obtain. As after a bit of silence, we have received the proper first look sort of teaser trailer for the second season of the popular Netflix adaptation of One Piece. Now, this new season will see Luffy and his Straw Hat crew as they embark further on their journey as they enter into the Grand Line, where they will soon encounter new islands, new acquaintances, formidable enemies, and a whole load of legendary secrets along the way. So, as it was surprised to say the case, the original season was a success and one of a first for the streamer, as every previous attempt at an adaptation to an anime on Netflix has not been really the best. It seems like this one is giving a lot more love to the saga than maybe retelling of a fair few selection of episodes per episode of the original series. A series that I will eventually get into at some point, that I promise some of them that I will. But that will continue the success of the series we'll have to see in due time, as I'm sure we will see how it comes about when the new season sets sails onto Netflix sometime next year. And for our second trailer for this week, and the second of our TV shows, is one that I have been wondering and waiting to see some from focus of some news and look into the next phase of this discussion on the case of things. That is really seems if you decide to take a trip to the Big Apple and you decide to stay at a particular hotel or apartment complex, you're more than likely guaranteed to be a suspect or a victim to murder. As we are once again heading back to Yarkonia, and with the amateur podcast loops, well, they've seen 4 before already, as we receive the trailer for the 5th season of the popular mystery comedy series of Only Murders in the Building. The new season will see Charles, Oliver, and Mabel find themselves looking to find a way to resolve the death of one of their beloved members of the Arconia with the death of the friendly doorman, and will focus on the themes of past versus present New York, where the trio will discover a deeper divide between the city that they thought they knew and the New York evolving around them, one where the old mob fights to hold on as newer, even more dangerous players emerge, while the trio finds a way to solve the case of this murder. It's always so interesting to see ways how they will evolve the next season to evolve each story. each season has something new to take on, from the humble beginnings, convicted of murder in season 2, the death on Broadway in season 3, and Hollywood in season 4, to now get in more in the focus reign of organized crime in form of the mafia is very interesting, and now probably the biggest lineup of guest stars in a season is kind of really appealing with so many names that I can't really list off right now. I'm all for tuning in for every episode every week to try and solve before the finale and just contradict myself in the process after every episode thinking, I thought I had it, but it's wrong. But I'm all for checking it out, and you can as well, with the new season releasing onto Hulu and Disney Plus in just under a month's time on September 9th. The third trailer in the focus is new look at another famous face getting the story being told in an all new film or project, and in this case of things that while the idea and career may not be seen as a major ordeal where you are from at first, with enough dedication and determination, they will prove that dreaming big will work out as well, and have because as we receive the trailer for a new fictionalized take on a famous face with the new film of Marty Supreme. Now the film will tell the story of Marty Mauser, played by Timothée Chalamet, a young man with a dream that no one really respects, but will go hell and back in the journey of the pursuit of greatness and help to bring the appeal and high-skill sport of ping pong to the masses of America. Now looking to the focus of this film, from my understanding, is that this is a bit of a fictional take on an actual sports star of the late Marty Reisman, who was a US world champion in the sport of ping pong in 1958 and 1960, and seems like to be a case of giving someone's life a bit of reworking to add more of a bit of a life and tone to the person in focus, which I feel could be a little concern of feeling a bit over the top or outlandish, but sometimes you can work in a bit of flair and craziness to it all, as seen with the Weird Al film. And most of the news I've heard about this was some other reason, Paltrow talking about them having a lot of on-screen sex and questioned the use of an intimacy coordinator or something like that, but I don't really know in the case instance. But I guess we can see how this film turns out. The film will be hitting its way into cinemas in the States on Christmas Day, and a week later here on New Year's Day. And with all that regards now, that's all the new trailers that we do have for this week. Jeffrey Bezos. Now the only news story that we do have in focus for this week is a selection of some smaller stories that all range from some reported release date changes, announcements, rumors, and some other affair that have all been brought together in some form to discuss for this week. Instead of multiple stories, I might as well just put them all together as one. So let's dive into what was in focus of discussion for this week in particular. So we start off with a story that was expected might happen, but also a case probably wasn't going to expect to happen, and that was in the instance that it was announced on Monday that the upcoming fifth film in the Shrek franchise has been delayed for a second time, with the film delayed from its initial December 23rd, 2026 release to a new release date of June 30th, 2027. Now, there's been a case of a lot of speculation as to why this film was delayed by a whole 6 months, for two of them being related to the film itself and one for marketing means, as the latter option would see this be released in a very competitive period of time, as it was going up against the massive blockbuster releases of both Avengers Doomsday and Dune Messiah, as well as another animated sequel in the form of Ice Age 6. But I see this still having a bit of tough competition, as we'll now be going head to head with another highly anticipated animated film, and as with the third part of the Spider-Verse trilogy with Beyond. So it's going to be a clash in that regard still. The other element in relation to the film itself seems to be reports of first being in relation to supposedly the plot of the film was leaked and they wanted to change it because the consensus was supposedly not that great. But the other one that seems more of an opinion push by people online would be given more time to alter the design of the characters, as this was the biggest talking point of the film since the teaser that was dropped back in February. It seems a lot of discussion of them looking off was a lot to discuss that I would say would get used to and some will complain about still. And in the other cases that the character models that are used in the opening logos for the company of DreamWorks still use the older models. So unless this teaser was like some weird filter, or else they were going for the opposite of Disney, where initially Shrek was more realistic looking while Disney was more cartoonish, to where now since the last film 15 years ago Disney went more realism and DreamWorks is going back to more old style of animation, but it's kind of unclear. I'm sure we get more of an idea of someone who will speak out against it from the company, but for now, all we can do is speculate until another new look is revealed at a later time, and we'll update when that does. Now, on the only confirmed of casting news that we have for discussion this week is the basis that we've seen a lot of big name action stars from the early days of the 80s and 90s with some big name projects. And I think we've seen the case with double hit success with one Mr. Sylvester Stallone, who had two big hit characters, with Rocky and the other of course being Rambo. As in relation to the latter character, that we have some news and discussion, as we seem to be getting a new film in the Rambo series in the works. Though in this case, it will not be a follow-on from Last Blood, but rather will be a prequel film showing the origins of the character fighting in the days of Vietnam. And in this case, they may have already found the actor to play the role, as in the form of Warfare Black Adam and All the Boys actor Noah Centineo, which from what I've seen from the photos of comparison, I think he would really fit the role well in that regards. Now, he's got a good build and look, and I'm sure he could pull off the action star after being typecast cast as a Netflix heartthrob. Now, the only other confirmed news that we do have for this project is the case of the director for the film, which is also another good choice, and that's the same director as the sci-fi movies of Jamari Hilander. And I think from the success of that first film, and hopefully from the sequel out later this year, it may work well in this action and bloody carnage those original films had. Now, there's no word yet on when this film is expected to release or enter development, but I'm sure once I hear anything, I'll of course update in a later episode. But now on the first of two rumored appearances, and the first one is a series that has been in a lot of discussion these last few weeks, and the more I hear about the ideas and possible choices for this one, the less excited I am for it. And we are of course once again talking on James Bond. Now over the last few weeks, we have discussed this whole ordeal about the confirmed director and writer, both of solid choices I will see, that's the only ones I've seen so far for this project, and then just a wave of rumored choices and names for the lead roles of the iconic agent, and some cases as well for the love interest of the Bond girl. But nothing really for the villain, which actually what I've looked online for some fan castings are pretty solid. But in the case of this week is one of the love interests in a Bond girl that in this one is a focus and choice I feel is just really forced from those that own the rights to the series now, and also go against the approach they are trying to do with the character in the series. And that's the case that Amazon head Jeff Bezos is looking to get his new wife of Lauren Sanchez as the next Bond girl in the series, which I feel is really just forcing it onto someone that is not much of an actress. She's a philanthropist and a former journalist in that regards, and also the case that if they were looking for someone younger for the role of Bond, like in the kind of 20s or early 30s, then it's going to give us sort of a big concerning age gap in this regards anyway, which will look really off-putting in that regards. Now, like I've said a few times with these rumors and stories in the case, they need to stop trying to push all these well-known stars and give it to someone for the roles that are more of an unknown or not as big of stars being considered, as then I would feel it would make more sense to appeal to them to get an idea of being excited to see them of the launching of their successful career from this for someone that deserves a bit of a chance instead of the names we've seen everything being in another series. Now as of now there's just a report and we'll see what comes of it all, but if there's anything new or announced I will of course update in another episode. Now the last of these stories we have in discussions will focus on goings on at Paramount. Now for those uninitiated, there's been a lot of mixed signals and topics from this company since the closed deal with the company of Skydance about 2-3 weeks ago, with some projects being brought in focus like new entries in the Top Gun series, big names being discussed to appear like the Duffer Brothers leaving Netflix for the studio after Stranger Things is done on Netflix, and some big payouts like South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone getting a nice big $1.5 billion to stay on the company and make and mock everything. But besides all of that, I want to focus on the announcement of something that may appeal to some, and that's the case that Paramount is looking to prioritize and provide a new take into the world based on the novel of World War Z. Now, if you recall, there was a film released by them back in 2013 starring Brad Pitt, as well as a recent co-op video game released a couple of years ago, probably around the pandemic era, and since then there has been really nothing, and the continuity for a sequel to that film has been stalled and presumably cancelled since then. But it looks like the series may be getting itself reanimated back to life. Now, in this case, I have no idea if this will be like of the sequel to the first film will be happening after all this time, or if it will be in the new take in the series in the form of a film or a TV series. Will probably more follow the book than it was based on initially, and be more in the focus of the famous aspect of the novel, which was known as the Battle of Yonkers, and what appealed most of being separate to most other zombie films and novelizations, but as of now, it's currently unclear. I'm sure if they do it right and go for the book, then I feel it could work out really well, but as of now, we have no idea on the approach for this series, but if the case I do hear anything, then I'll of course update in a later episode. But what do you make of all these stories? What do you feel of the Shrek delay, and what is the reason for it? Would you watch a Rambo prequel with Noah Centineo? Is the rumors and possible choice for new Bond completely dumb, or are you fine with them? And would you watch a new take on World War Z? Let me know what you think down below, and with all that, that's all the news that we do have for this week.
Where are my testicles, Summer?
And with all that regards now, that ends episode 117 of Weird Mind Newsroom. I do hope you enjoyed this, my ramblings, for quite another week. So I'm going to try and fly through this quick updates of stuff, because it's usually the same affair of what I've said already in aspects. So reviews wise, those reviews are going to come along as well. Last of Us Season 1 and 2 are both going to get reviewed soon enough. I'm going to get back to writing them. I have a couple of Snacks' box office ready to record. I'm going to have Beverly Hills Cops and Axel F, If, Civil War, and I'm going to throw in one new one, which is the How to Train Your Dragon remake. I'm going to do them quick enough and hopefully upload those in the next couple of days. And there's some other long form stuff and reviews and stuff like that, so I will get to those in due time. Gameplay wise, probably by the time this episode goes up, the second part of my DK Bonanza series should be out. I'm hoping to release it by today and then release this one tomorrow or Tuesday, the usual affair kind of stuff like that. I'll get to more recordings of that series as well as Cyberpunk, Mario Wonder, Star Wars and stuff like that. They're all going to come back as well, and a few other games in a particular instance I will get to recording and stuff. I'm going to try and get to like maybe some co-op stuff as well, like Peak, as well as case and pieces stuff like Ventilate. I'm going to get to them as well. And in long form stuff regards, I'm going to upload the Luxo lamp time lapse at some point in the next couple of days as well. I'm just going to get to editing that, as well as the case of some stuff like the AI audience choice video, the rewatchathon stuff. They're all going to come along as well, so I will So look forward to them in that aspect, and they'll come in due time. I was going to find the time to record the last bits and pieces for them, or just find the energy to do so as well. But in all that regards as well, I'm going to leave the episode there for now. So if you like my content, want to see more from me more frequently, then simply like and subscribe. As I do new stuff every single week, I'm aiming for 500 subs right now. We're about 20 away, and hopefully, if it's a possibility by the end of this year, to reach 1,000 subs. But I will, of course, any support overall will be greatly appreciated. Then let me know your thoughts on everything that's discussed this week down below, from all the new releases, the thoughts and trailers, as well as the news stories. I'd love to hear everything you like down below. And in case with that as well, I'm probably going to leave it there for the moment. So as always, you all stay being wonderful people, have a great day every day, doing many great things, and of course to keep being you, because no one else can do what you do. I've of course been your host Sam, and I shall see you all in the next episode. So take care, and I shall see you later.